Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to our Henley and Partners webinar on tax planning in global residence and with a focus on Europe. So I'm Peter Farino, Director of Tax Services at Henley and Partners, and I'm joined by an esteemed panel of my various colleagues who I'll be introducing to you shortly. Just wait a few seconds for people to join as they're all still logging in. And we can see, yes, what we do today, we will talk about an introduction to Henley and Partners, and we'll talk about what's going on in the world of wealth migration. This session is particularly focused on tax. So I'm going to talk about some tax issues that arise as you move around Europe and to go and live and work in different European countries. And to live and move, you have to have a residency right, whether it's under EU free movement rules or using a residency or citizenship program. And we're going to take you through 5 of our favorite programs today with colleagues from each of those offices talking to us about that. There will always be time for your questions and answers at the end. There is a Q&A box somewhere along your taskbar there, so please do drop your questions in there. And if you have questions during the event, we will either try and handle them in real time as we go, or we will handle them at the end. Our speakers today from our Montreal office in Canada, Suad Ouarid is an Associate Director of Private Clients. From Athens in Greece, we have Vasya Zakos. And from Latvia, we have Alana Komleva, who will be talking about the Latvia program, and Margarita Zhukova, who will be talking about Italy. And last but very much not least, Joana Barata from our Portugal office in Lisbon will be talking about the Portuguese program. I will also repeat these slides at the end, so when someone says something meaningful and life-changing that makes you think, I really, really must move to that country, you can then find their details at the end and send them a message or an email as you see fit. So, Henley and Partners, who are we? Well, you probably know if you're here already, but a reminder, we are the world's leading investment migration consultancy. We've been leading the sector for 25 years, and with now over 70 offices around the world, offering more than 60 different options for people to change their country of residency or citizenship. Over that 25 years, we've advised more than 25,000 clients. That's a neat average of 1,000 a year, but I think it started out much less than that because it's much more than that now. And we've also, in addition to advising the private clients about how to move, we also advise the governments on how to make their countries particularly attractive. And our investment and our involvement has helped countries raise more than $15 billion of foreign investment over that time. So like I say, we help high net worth individuals and entrepreneurs get more alternative residencies and citizenships around the world to enable them to work, live, travel wherever they need to be, regardless of where they were born and what documents they came with. So we primarily focus on the residency and citizenship advisory, but if you need to invest by buying real estate in that country, our real estate team can help. If you are moving with a family and you're worried about your kids' education, then Henley Education can help with that. If you need some help with the travel arrangements, our concierge division can also help charter you a jet or whatever you need to get you there. And also our tax services, which is, I should put that in the slide, shouldn't I? Because we can help support your move by helping you understand the tax aspects of it as well. From the government advisory side, we help the governments decide how to make their country attractive and also align the investment that they're seeking with their national priorities and focus. So if they want investment in the tech sector or if they want investment in real estate and development, we help them decide what their priorities are and make their program attractive to the private clients that we are talking to every day. Also, the application process can be very, very difficult in some places if it's not approached strategically. And so our experience in helping countries process applications can really help bring that investment forward, get the investment into the country quicker, and encourage more people to relocate there. And also, we do a lot of events like this one, as you know well by being here, and helping those countries promote their programs by talking about them on events like this is very much part of the commitment we make to those clients. But however, we've chosen these ones because these are the ones that we think you want to know about, not because we've been asked to by that specific government. So our global presence, as I say, nearly 70 offices now and more opening every time. I think we've even got a couple of dots that aren't even on this map yet. So every continent there's a Henley office. We are both where the programs are, hence why there's so many offices in the Caribbean, and also where the clients are, which is why there's so many offices in many other places, whether it's Africa, every continent, Africa, both Americas, up and down, and then Europe, Asia, Oceania, Middle East, you name it, we're there. Because people are moving, and that's called wealth migration. And to take us through the wealth migration trend, I would like to hand over to my colleague and friend all the way from Montreal, Canada, Suad. Please take it away.
Thank you, Peter. So let's move to another continent here. Nice to be here today. So now, we all live in one specific country, but it's good to know what's happening around the world and what are the trends and what are millionaires and high net worth moving around the world. So this comes from the report. So Henley and Partners, we publish several reports every year. And this one comes from the Henley Wealth Report that details what is the movement, what are the trends of high net worth clients around the world. And what we are seeing is since 15, 20 years, we're seeing a clear trend of increase in the mobility of high net worth clients around the world. So millionaires are relocating from one country to the other. As we see, we have here the numbers of 2013, and where it was 51,000 millionaires moving, relocating to another country, and it has been increasing and increasing. So in 2020, obviously, I think I don't need to explain, it was the COVID period. So that completely kind of decreased that trend. And then we saw that as long as we got back into normal life, the trend just continued to increase. 2025, we're seeing an estimate of 142,000 millionaires moving. And in 2026, the trend, we're going to see the largest voluntary transfer that will be made with 165,000 people. So now you're probably wondering, where do these people go and from which country they leave? And this is what we're going to see in the next slide. So the top 10 countries for the net millionaire outflows are, the first one is the UK, where we see a trend of 16,500 millionaires leaving the UK, probably part of this due to the Brexit that was there. And then as the second and the third, China and India. This is definitely explained by the fact there's the very high number of population in these countries. So we're seeing an outflow from these countries and then followed by other countries. And now we even see countries that we didn't really see before, such as France and Spain and Germany. So now we can see them in the top 10 outflows. And now, where are people going? And that's a very interesting slide. And from the report, where we see is the top one is the UAE. So the UAE is attracting many, many high net worth and ultra high net worth from all around the world. Many people are relocating to that country. The USA remains a destination as well for many people. The American dream is there. Then we see Italy, Switzerland, maybe due to their tax jurisdictions as well. Peter will speak more about it later on. And then you can see the other countries. We also find Canada, Australia from the top 10 due to the quality of life. Many people just want to relocate there to relocate their families. Now, what is interesting is another slide with the world's fastest growing wealth market. So which countries we are seeing this trend of growing high net worth, ultra high net worth, and Montenegro comes first in that ranking, followed by the UAE. As we mentioned, it is linked with the fact that many high net worth are going there. Other countries in Europe, as we see, Malta, Poland, we're having an increase, the USA, and even countries, Latvia, Panama. So, and Latvia, my colleague Lana will speak more about the residence program as well.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. So let's talk about tax, as the song doesn't say. And here we go. So the tax systems around the world, as I say, when we talk about residence, but residence has two meanings in our industry. There is the right to live in a country, the right to reside, and that is an immigration status. Now, once you've invested in the country and got the right to live there, you don't always have to use that right, and many people don't. Many people have what we call a plan B or a plan C, or they use it as a way of facilitating business travel or whatever. But the right to reside in the country is an immigration status. Distinct from that, how much tax you paid is determined by whether you are a tax resident or not. And tax residency tends to come after residency. Although if you're illegally in a country for too long, you could still be tax resident even if you don't have the right to be a resident. But that doesn't happen that often. Tax residency is typically obtained by being in the country for more than 183 days in the tax year or a rolling 12-month period. And that is 365 divided by 2 and rounded up, logically enough. Being above 183 days will default to making you potentially resident. But it can also be an issue that if you're below 183 days, doesn't make you not resident automatically. If you have a permanent home or available accommodation in that country, or if you have significant interest in that country, then you could still potentially be tax resident there. And every country has an ever so subtly different definition of tax resident. And because they're all different, you can be resident in more than one country, particularly if you travel a lot. You can even be more than 183 days in more than one country if you are really set your mind to it, although it can be quite hard to do that. So if you are a resident in more than one country by the rules of both, then many countries have double taxation agreements. There are more than 3,500 of these. These are bilateral, and it determines where if someone is resident in both countries under their rules, what the tiebreak procedure is. And there's a series of clearly defined tests in the double taxation agreement, starting with central vital interest, habitual abode, and various other subtle differences by treaty as well. So you always have to check the individual treaty. Nationality or citizenship is usually the last determining factor if you can't work it out from any of the other stages further up. But usually it is possible to determine. And of course, the tax authorities of the two countries have to agree between themselves if necessary. Why does it matter? Because if you're a resident, you're taxed in one way, and if you're not a resident, you're taxed in another way. Only two countries can, in theory, ever tax a single piece of income. The country where that income arises, which is the country of source. Source is relatively easy if you are working, like we all are at the moment. Then it is the country you're physically sat in when you are working. If it is rental income, it's where the property is located. If it's a dividend, it's where the company paying it is located. Every type of income has a source, and that country of source is the first that's allowed to tax it, even for non-residents. However, the country of residence, if you are a resident in a country, they own you from a tax-paying perspective. They will want to tax you on your worldwide income, including income earned in other countries. I mean, they have that right. They don't always exercise it. We'll come back to that. And if you are a resident in one country, you have a source in the other country where you do have the income that's already been taxed, you could potentially be taxed twice, but usually you get double taxation relief either through the domestic law or through the double tax agreement to ensure that you pay the higher of the two rates of tax rather than paying two lots of tax. And so country of source goes first, country of residence goes second. Now, one country likes to be a little bit different, and the US of A, United States of America, is the only major country to tax its people on the basis of citizenship. Or if you're a green card holder, you'll also be taxable there. Citizens are taxable on their worldwide income as well. Country source goes first. If a US citizen is resident somewhere else, that country gets to go second. And then the US will come along and sweep up afterwards and make sure that they've had anything that hasn't been taxed yet will get taxed. Now, there are various reliefs and exemptions for foreign tax credits or foreign earned income, and as many countries have higher tax rates than the US, it is quite common for US citizens to have to file a tax return, which doesn't result in them paying any more additional tax to the US, but they still have that filing requirement. So we've got to be very careful to watch out for that for US nationals or green card holders. And even if you've left the US, as a green card holder, you are still subject to US taxes for as long as you've got the green card. If you give it up, there may be an exit charge. So that's residency and citizenship, and those are the typical systems used. Well, residency is typically used in most European countries, most countries of the OECD, so Australia and Canada, and all the other big economies will do that. And I say the US has its own additional variation on that. Now, some other smaller countries typically want to position themselves as being a hub for trading, want to encourage investment there. And you will find that countries like Panama and Costa Rica or Singapore and Hong Kong tax only on the territorial basis. So only income earned in that country is taxed there. So that's to then sort of say, well, if you're trading across Asia and Hong Kong and Singapore are a great place to do that, or the Central American countries, they don't want to tax the rest of the world, partly probably because historically, as a smaller country, they wouldn't have the resources to be able to police that anyway. But yes, territorial systems are popular in those smaller countries. And I'd add New Zealand to that because for the first 4 years for newly arriving foreign national, they derogate from having a residence-based taxation system to just tax you on the territorial basis for the first 4 years. Then gradually you move, well, after the fourth year, you move to being taxable like everybody else there. There's a variation on that where some countries will still tax you on what you've earned outside that country if you bring it into that country. And that's called a remittance basis. And our good friends Malta and Cyprus use that. So very similar kind of profile in what they're trying to encourage, but they do want to tax the money that brings in as well. Some countries don't need income tax. They have different sources of revenue, whether it's natural resources or property or regulated industries. And you will have no income tax at all if you live in the United Arab Emirates or Monaco or the Bahamas. So that is often quite useful. However, not all of them have double tax agreements. UAE does, Monaco mostly doesn't. So if you've got income from a variety of countries, you do have to be very careful to make sure that it's you're clear that the other countries may still be able to tax that. And some variation there to encourage very, very wealthy people. Some countries have said, you know what, we'll just put a cap on it. We will say, as long as you're paying 100,000 or 200,000 euros or 250,000 Swiss francs or whatever, then the lump sum tax will apply, a forfeit system. So in Switzerland, it varies by canton, and there are 21 cantons that offer variations. It depends. Each one you negotiate based on their own parameters. Italy is 200,000 euros. Greece is 100,000 euros. And that covers all the tax on all of your foreign source savings and investment income for the entire year. So something for everybody there. And say across Europe, there are multiple programs. There are programs elsewhere in the world, and we've talked about some of these as well. So if you're looking to relocate, if you're looking and thinking where you want to go, then you can start with a map, you can start with the tax system, you can start with you know, a film you saw on TV which made it look nice and decide which one you like. From a tax perspective, here is a summary of the 5 programs we're talking about today. You will see that the famous 183 days determines tax residence in at least 4 of them. And then otherwise, it's also the principle of interest, of business interest, economic or social interest. And then whether the difference between registered residents, permanent residents, and habitual residents are subtly different. And so therefore, they will then determine where you are resident there. Now, if you're resident, there are the flat tax systems there, or there is regular tax as well, is also available as an option. And so you can go from the lows of 31 in Latvia to the mid 40s in Italy and Greece, or into the 50s when you add Switzerland at all the multiple levels, or Portugal. But some of them, investment income is taxed at a lower rate. Capital gains aren't taxed in Switzerland. So there's really something for everybody here. And particularly if you're looking to retire, then there is also a 7% tax rate in most of Greece and certain locations in the south of Italy. So something for everybody. And that's why whenever we're having these conversations, the first thing is to say, what kind of assets do you have? What kind of income do you have? What events are you expecting that may trigger a taxable activity? And then there's very much often a right place for that person at that particular point in their life. So here are the 5 countries. There I are. So let's talk about them. And let's start with Vasha to talk about Greece.
Thank you so much, Peter. Yeah, so Greece continues to have one of the most popular residence by investment programs at just 250,000. So we'll get right into it. Greece has been a part of the Eurozone since 2001. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the country. If you've been lucky enough to travel here in the summers, we had another world record of tourism. Again, the summers are always very busy and very hot here. Our economy is mainly tourist, but also service and industrial based. We have huge shipping industry here in Greece, with Piraeus port being home of the major port of Athens is Piraeus, and it's the largest passenger port in all of Europe. And now, if we just go into more details about the program itself, you'll see that the Greek Golden Visa, it actually gives you the benefit to travel freely within the Schengen area. And the great thing about this is that you also don't have a minimum requirement to stay in Greece, but also no maximum requirement either. So if you simply want to use it for travel purposes and you do not intend to relocate, this would be a great option for you and your family. You also have the win-win situation if you do decide to proceed with a real estate investment. You can also earn rental income on your property. Again, because you have no obligation to live here, many clients choose to purchase a property and then rent it out to have as a passive income. You'll have access to public healthcare and education here in Greece. We have many international universities, English private schools as well. If you're looking for something for your children, it's another great option. And lastly, while the Greek Golden Visa program does not give you the permission to work in Greece, you can open up a company if you wish, as long as you are the sole shareholder, the owner, and you can then get dividends from your company. So the requirements for the Golden Visa program, I will say here that one key point to mention is that you can do the whole process remotely if you wish. There's just one caveat at the end of the process, rather. You must come to Greece to submit your fingerprints, your biometrics, which is the very last step. But if you were not in a position to travel here and select your property or open up your bank account, this can all be done remotely. Another requirement is that you must have a valid health insurance coverage, but we'll do this at the very end of the process, and we can assist you with this as well. Now, the most popular investment route that clients do choose to go with is real estate. And we still have a more affordable option of 250,000, as I mentioned previously. And this is for a specialized real estate investment that has been converted from a commercial building to a residential building. Now, it's important to note that you yourself do not have to undergo the conversion. We work with highly respected real estate developers and also real estate agencies that source these properties for you, and also have already undergone the respectable permits and the construction from the conversion to residential. So no construction and obligation is needed on your part for the real estate. And then also we have the options of 800,000 for residential properties in Athens area, as well as the major islands. And then lastly, you have the 400,000 euro option for outside of Athens areas and in the smaller islands with less than 3,100 inhabitants. Apart from the real estate, we also have financial instrument options. You could go with the term deposit option, where you just place 500,000 euros in a bank. You can also do the time sharing, and also we have government bonds, mutual funds options. This is something that you can discuss with your personal banker or a client advisor here at Henley if you are unsure what investment route is best for you. And lastly here, at Henley & Partners, we are here to help you through the entire process from A to Z. After the initial due diligence are completed and you sign our relevant agreements, you, again, can do the whole process remotely if you wish, or you can travel to Greece and we'll be happy to welcome you and accompany you at all your meetings. which would be to sign a power of attorney with our lawyers in order for them to carry out the purchase process and the investment process on your behalf, as well as real estate viewings. We'll be happy to go with you as well if you do choose to go with the real estate route. And then once the investment part of the application is finished, there's just some simple housekeeping at the end of the process to submit marriage certificates, birth certificates, the health insurance, as I mentioned before, and it's a fairly quick submission process after that. And after that, you have the final checks from the ministry about, I would say, 3 weeks after submission. You come to Greece, submit your biometrics, and then about 3 months after that, you'll receive your golden visa by courier. So overall, as a European program, the processing time is quite quick if this is something that is important to you. So once again here, just to close off, you've got the benefits of traveling freely in Greece and also Europe's Schengen area. You also just renew the permit every 5 years. So if you were not in position to come to Greece before the 5 years, there's no need to. You simply come back in the 5th year to submit your biometrics again. And if you wish, there is the possibility to apply for citizenship after 7 years. I will say this is a lengthy and complicated process. So if you are not living in Greece, this is not realistic at all. But if you are someone who's going to relocate and ready to immerse yourself in the culture and learn the language, citizenship is definitely an option.
Okay, great. And the best of it all is you get to live in Greece if you want to, which can't be a bad thing. And equally, there's another place which is also can't be a bad place to live, which is La Dolce Vita of Italy. So Margherita is going to talk to us about Italia.
Thank you so much. With pleasure. Italy, as you may know, is a country with a rich culture and global recognized tourist destination with famous cities such as Rome, Milan, Florence, and Venice. The Italian Residence by Investment Program was created 8 years ago for foreign investors who are interested in significant contribution to the country economy, granting them Italian residency and free visa access to the Europe Schengen area, the same as Greece, Vaisa just shared with us. So this is a famous country with multinational languages as well, Italian, German, French, and population more than 60 million, and the currency euro, and standard diversified economy. Yeah.
I'm really having trouble changing slides at the moment. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
Okay. So the key benefits are investment required only on post-approval stage, and this is the sole golden visa program in Europe which allows to do so, and only when the Italian residence permit is granted. No minimal stay requirement, right to live, work, and study in Italy, also attractive tax regime, access to excellent medical care and education facilities, also right to apply for Italian citizenship after 10 years of residence, and possibility to add spouse and children below 18 years old. Requirements. Investors may choose one of the three available investment options. First one, investment of 2 million euros in Italian government bonds, investment of 500,000 euros in Italian public limited companies, or 250,000 euros for innovative startups, and also non-refundable philanthropic donation of 1 million euros in project of public interest in Italy. For clients who are interested in permanent relocation to Italy without required investment, Italian elective residence program is available as an option. Individuals should prove their strong and regular passive income at certain quantity from abroad and maintained for the validity of the visa. The key points of the lump sum tax regime available for new Italian residents who have not been residents in Italy for at least 9 out of the past 10 years, applicable for foreign income instead of the ordinary progressive tax rates, and valid for 15 years, costs 200 100,000 euros for the main applicant and 25,000 euros for each additional financially active family member per year. What individual will accept after joining the flat tax regime? Gifts and inheritance taxes relating to assets, tax on real estate owned abroad and from wealth tax on foreign financial investments, and remittances taxes as well. Yeah, so the process is preliminary is the same as Vasa shared for Greece. The difference is that the approval will be granted first and the investment later, once the residence permit is granted. Processing time for the application submission date to residence permit card is around 3-4 months. All process starts and completes for the main applicant first, and only then we can add family members. First residency card will be valid for 2 years and renewable for further 3 years, with possibility to apply for permanent residency after total 5 years of holding temporary residency card, or to continue renew for another 3 years of temporary residency card as well. And short program overview. Lastly, minimal investment starting from 250 euros and should be investment only after approval stage. Processing time 3-4 months since submission of the application. No minimal stay requirement. Free visa travel across Europe Schengen area, and the right to apply for the Italian citizenship after 10 years of residence, which is in top 3 Henley & Partners passport index. That's all for Italy.
And that's where we rank which passports are the most powerful and give you the most countries that you can access visa-free. So top 3 ranking of over 190,000 is pretty good. So if you thought Greece was great, Italy's great too. So now you're going to struggle to choose because they're both so great. So let's give you an even more interesting and unique place to try. The beautiful city of Riga in the country of Latvia. And so let's talk about Latvia, Lana. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, my pleasure to be a part of this webinar. Latvia is a European country located on the Baltic Sea coast with a very picturesque nature and beautiful cities. The population is 1.8 million people. The official language is Latvian, economy more based on service and technology. Currency is euro. And here will be the key benefits. So it's a visa-free access to the countries in Europe Schengen area. No minimum presence requirements are for the residence permit holders, but in the meantime, please bear in mind that you will need to renew the card every year. It's a fast-track application procedure, attractive tax system. It's a bridge between Northern, Eastern, and Western Europe, just 2 hours flight to all main European cities. We have a quite busy airport here in Riga, so yeah, here are quite a lot of tourists. Eligibility to apply for citizenship after 10 years of legal residence. Qualifying investments. So here are the programs. You can invest into the share capital of Latvian company, invest in a real estate, or invest in subordinated capital of credit institutions. The most popular program among our clients is investing of 50,000 euro in the share capital of Latvian company. It's quite an easygoing process, straightforward. We have the companies to offer, and actually the process might take from onboarding to submission around 4 months. The second from the popularity programs are the real estate. The minimum amount should be 250,000 euro. And also these real estate properties can be rented out afterwards. And now let's go to the process steps, please. So the process is almost standard as for the other European programs. First, our clients are onboarded, signing the Henley & Partners agreements, passing all the due diligence checks, and then once the retainer is also paid, we are more than welcome to start the process, and it will be the first steps, collection of the required documents and also completion of the investment. It depends on which route do you decide, investing into a company or into the real estate. Both these options can be done remotely. And afterwards, when everything is completed and finalized, we can submit your application, and this can be done in Latvia or in the Latvian embassy situated in the place of your residency. And once the file is submitted, we are waiting for the approval from the government. This might take around from 1 to 3 months. And once the approval is granted, you're more than welcome to visit Latvia. We will be very glad to accompany you here in our office that is also located here in Riga, and to finalize the last steps for passing the biometrics appointment and also picking up the cards. And also let me mention, please, that the temporary residency permit is granted for 5 years. But in the meantime, the plastic card that you will receive, the ID card, has a validity of 1 year. So one of the requirements is to visit Latvia annually for the card registration. That might take around 2 to 3 days. A great opportunity to visit European countries once a year. So here is a quick overview. So it's a visa-free access to the countries in European Schengen area. You have the right to live, work, and study in Latvia. No minimum presence requirements. And who can apply? The main applicant with spouse and children under 18 years old. And also eligibility to apply for citizenship after 10 years of legal residence.
Thank you. Just notice that's the only one where we say you've got to know the national anthem. Do you have to know the words, or can you just hum along with it?
Excuse me, Peter, could you please repeat?
You said it's the only program we talk about where it says you have to have a knowledge of the national anthem. Do you have to be able to sing the words, or do you just have to be able to hum?
Exactly. You just have to understand and to know the main words. You don't have to sing.
To recognize when you should stand up at least. Okay, well,
yeah.
That's good to know. I'd not noticed that on that slide before. I just noticed it now. Right. Anyway, enough of me getting excited. Let's move to somewhere. But how can I stop being excited when we got Portugal next? God, this is just getting amazing today. We've got so many nice places. And here's Joanna to talk to us about Portugal.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to be here and speak to you today about Portugal, which I'm sure some of you already heard. Portugal is one of the most popular residence programs in the world for many, many factors. And one of the things that mostly attracts people to Portugal is, of course, the fact that it's a very globalized nation in Europe. Although it's a small country, we are over 10 million residents and population. The language, we speak Portuguese in Portugal. It is quite easy to get around and to live in Portugal because we all speak Portuguese. English, apologies. And in terms of the economy, although tourism is one of the most significant at this stage in these years, it's mostly a business-oriented services country, and also manufacturing is quite representative in the country. And the currency we use here in Portugal is the euro. Another aspect of Portugal that has been and continues to draw many, many applicants from across the globe to Portugal is that it is one of the safest countries in the world, and quite highly ranked in that aspect. And the key benefits of the program is, of course, visa-free travel in Europe's Schengen area. Once you become a resident through the Golden Visa program, you can live, work, and study in Portugal legally. And of course, very attractive eligibility to apply for citizenship, which is true today after 5 years. So after you submit your application to the Portuguese government, the clock starts ticking, and after 5 years, you are eligible to apply for citizenship. Although I should mention that we do know of a recent intention of the government to change this and possibly increase the time of eligibility. The eligibility itself is not threatened, but you may in the future need to wait a little longer. We're currently waiting for the government to decide on how long exactly. But what is true today is still the 5-year eligibility for citizenship, which makes the program incredibly attractive. Another aspect is the low physical presence requirement. So it's 7 days per year, or because in engaging with the program, you will have a 2-year validity card in which you are expected to complete 14 days stay. So 7 days per year, 14 days stay within your card's validity period. And of course, family reunification. You can bring your family under the umbrella of one investment. And it includes civil marriages, de facto partnerships, and same gender partnership, which is recognized by the Portuguese government. We do have excellent international universities and schools if you're thinking to relocate the family to Portugal. Also the same in terms of health. Public health is accessible if you do live in Portugal, and certainly after you become a resident through the Golden Visa program. And in general, a really high quality of life, good food, good wine, a rich culture. People are usually quite warm and welcoming. And again, the fact that you are able to communicate in English in Portugal makes it quite accessible for many people thinking to do the program. In terms of the requirements for the Portugal Golden Visa, there are several of them, although two very popular ones. Number one, of course, being the investment in the acquisition of investment fund or venture capital fund units from a Portuguese fund. The minimum here is 500K, and this is by far the most popular option at the moment. Also, you would have the same investment threshold for research activities. So this would be a contribution, and also a lower threshold of 250K in support of artistic production. This one also being second most popular that we see in someone trying to engage with the program. Of course, the difference here between number one most popular, the fund, is of course that you receive a return once you invest in a fund. And the 250 donation is also very interesting, but it's a not refundable investment option and a one-time investment option. Further to this, you do have other options that may be of interest if someone may be thinking to actually relocate to Portugal, which is the business option. So there is option one on this venture, which is the creation of at least 10 new jobs, and then option of investing 500K for the incorporation of a commercial company registered in Portugal. In terms of the process for Portugal, similar programs already mentioned, of course, after the onboarding, main applicant is expected to open a bank account in Portugal and to invest prior to submitting the application. Of course, our team here in Portugal assists with every single step included for this. And then whatever investment option you choose, you collect your personal documentation and then we'll be ready to submit your application. And then this submission stage really is an important part because this is where you start the wait period until you receive an acceptance. This is a long wait period today compared to other programs because how popular this program has become. It's around 2 years until the acceptance. And to the acceptance, you will be expected to be in Portugal for your first biometrics appointment. And then you need to wait for the approval notification by the government. And then after that, your golden visa is issued. And that's when you really become a resident in the country. So as it's true today, if you are interested mostly in the citizenship pathway, by the time that you submit your application and around 3 years later, when you become a resident, those 3 years would have counted for your citizenship eligibility. So this also makes the program quite attractive for anyone trying to onboard today. And then after you become a resident, your card will be issued with a 2-year validity. And just as an overview, minimum contribution again for the program, 150K for the donation option, so non-refundable, no return here. But there are institutions and projects available of interest to many of our clients. There's even a possibility of a discount, which can drop the threshold here to 200K instead of 250 if you choose a project and an institution that is located in inland Portugal mostly, which are considered low density areas of Portugal. And then the ranking on the Henley Passport Index, Portugal is located in top 5, which is very attractive, having the advantage of accessing 190 countries.
Wow, that's impressive. And that was great. Thank you so much, Joanna. We're spoilt for choice today, aren't we? And here is the lovely city of Zurich, in Switzerland, and here is Suad to talk to us about Switzerland. We've had a couple of good questions coming in. People not called David are also able to ask questions, but thank you to all the Davids for asking questions so far. We'll actually, I will come back to those at the end. But Suad, Switzerland.
Thank you, Peter. So Switzerland, as you might know, it's the dream destination for many families around the world. And we have seen earlier that Switzerland is one of the countries that have the biggest inflows of millionaires and high net worth clients relocating there. So, and the reason is Switzerland ranks among the world's top countries for the quality of life. So many families choose this country for the economic stability, the political stability, the healthcare, the education system that is highly, highly of good quality. And obviously for the tax rates as well, that could be very beneficial for some families too. So Switzerland, it's a population of 8.5 million. Civil languages spoken, German, French, Italian. So if you like this country, you can start taking these language classes. The economy, modern market, advanced market, and the currency. So here it's not euro, but it remains the Swiss franc in Switzerland. So the key benefits of a residence in Switzerland is will give you the right to live and study in Switzerland, and with the benefit of having a visa-free access to all the Europe Schengen area. Multilingual, as we have just seen, society, but with English widely spoken as well, so you can get along quite easily in Switzerland. First-class infrastructure, obviously, as you might know, excellent banking facilities, the lifestyle, healthy environment, and education with world-renowned schools and excellent education system that we find in Switzerland, and the taxation system as well. So the requirements to get the residence in Switzerland. So first of all, be older than 18, be of a good character, no criminal record. There will be many documentation that will be required, such as, you know, all the other programs. So the passport, the CV, information on financial standing. And this is a very important detail, as another requirement is not to be gainfully occupied in Switzerland. So the residence in Switzerland allows you to live there, to study there, benefit from the healthcare, etc. However, it doesn't allow you to work in Switzerland. So you can, the applicant you can administer the worldwide investment portfolio, however, and be active outside of Switzerland, but it is not possible to work in Switzerland. So this is an important detail. And another requirement, and this is different from the other programs as well. As you have seen, the other programs, it is investment based. So whether you invest in real estate, whether you invest in mutual funds, in Switzerland, it is tax payment based. So it's a lump sum tax amount that you have to pay every year. And the amount goes from 250,000 Swiss francs to 1 million Swiss francs. So now the amount of the taxes that you will be paying every year depends on several parameters, such as the total wealth that you have, the income, the canton where you want to relocate, the country where you come from. So there are many factors that come into consideration, and it is a negotiation that has to be made with the canton for you to be able to determine the amount. And it is part of our service that we do negotiate the amount with the canton for you on the amount that you need to pay. So we try to minimize this amount as much as possible. Another thing interesting that I want to mention is that for non-EU citizens, the amount starts at 250 Swiss francs. However, if you are a EU resident, a EU citizen, this amount can be less. So it could be the half of 250. So this is all negotiations that Henley and Partners we can do for you. So if we go to the process, we start by doing a due diligence as all the other programs. This is a quite straightforward, easy, fast step to be done. We sign the agreement, there's a retainer that will be paid, and then we will submit the application to the immigration and the tax department of the government of Switzerland. The negotiations will be done there for the amount for you to be paid. And then once we get the application approved in principle, you will get the visa to enter Switzerland, and then you can have the right to live in Switzerland. Maybe an interesting detail as well. So there is a path to citizenship in Switzerland, and it is 10 years. So you have to live in Switzerland for minimum 10 years for you to be able to have the Swiss citizenship. And another detail that is important to take into consideration is maybe other programs, they do not require any minimum stay requirements, such as Greece, for example, or Italy. However, for the residents in Switzerland, you need to be a tax resident, obviously, and you need to live in Switzerland for minimum 183 days. So it's really a relocation plan that has to be done with the residents in Switzerland. So as an overview, so Switzerland, one of the high quality of life with special tax rate jurisdiction. As mentioned, the minimum is 250. The passport, so if ever you get to live there for 10 years and you get the citizenship, they have a really strong passport as well that is ranked among the top 5 with approximately 190 destinations. And with the residence, you get the access to all the Schengen area, first class infrastructure, quality of life, and so on. There it is,
Well,
Peter.
I mean, and there's so many choices, aren't there? All of those places are lovely, and all of them are places where you could see yourself staying. It's about getting the right investment. You know, if you're a realist, if you like buying real estate, choose somewhere with real estate investment. If you're a financial person, somewhere with technical, with startup funds or technology funds or something like that. If you want to be in the mountains, if you want to be by the sea, there's, like I said, with the tax rates, there's something for everybody here with these offerings. So we're going to go to the questions and answers, and I'm pleased to see we have a few up in the top right-hand corner here. So let me just get these and read those out. Yep, so yeah, someone's asked about Malta. We chose not to do Malta today. We will have another one on Malta elsewhere in the year. So yeah, we just chose these 5 for today. Yep. So let me have a look. Switzerland. There was a question about Switzerland. I can live in Switzerland and study and live with my own funds. So after how many years I get a residence permit, and will I be able to work after I get my residence permit in Switzerland? So you get the residence permit at the beginning, but I don't think there's ever a route to working there, is there? But there are potential other routes that can be looked around. And the amount to get in Switzerland, well, I mean, you say the question is it's about 2.5 to 10 million you need to get residence in Switzerland. Is about, well, at what level of income does that amount of tax make sense? So it varies very much depending on where you're coming from, what type of assets you've got, what type of income you're generating. But if I'll put some contact details up shortly afterwards, so maybe we can deal with those questions if you want to sort of email us a bit more detail about your personal situation. Switzerland doesn't offer citizenship, comes after 10 years of living there. So you do need to get the residence permit first, then live there for a while, and then after the 10 years you can apply. It ends up being about 12 years from the first application once you do that. So let me go up a little bit more to the other questions. We have a question about the US actually, and we can't answer that today. But someone looking to get the US from somewhere with no capital gains tax, I think that's going to depend more on where you're coming from and where you actually physically want to live and where your income is. So what I would suggest, I will move the slide on to their contact details, and maybe if the first David who gave us those 2 questions, if you want to drop an email to myself and to Suad, we can pick that up with you offline separately. Because yes, there are ways you can get to the US with a different citizenship, but we're talking about residence in Europe today. So residencies in Europe won't give you access to the US, but citizenships from other places may do. And if you've got the Portuguese citizenship or the Swiss one, at some point you would be able to, but there are other non-European citizenships that will get you there faster. So do send us a few more details and a bit more information, and we'll be happy to help you with that. So the last question I also have here, two separate needs, tax efficient income and a CGT-free country for retirement. That's really going to depend where you're coming from. It's going to depend where your assets are. And yes, again, please feel free to drop us an email and we would be happy to give you have a conversation about that. Yes, because you know, if Italy or Greece, where you do have the flat tax, there is no capital gains tax. There's no capital gains tax in Switzerland. So those options here are also available, but other options that we haven't covered today, such as Cyprus or Malta or the UAE, may also be an option. Fees to advise, well, we have the first conversation and find a few more details and get back to you on that. All of these individual programs have a specific fixed fee. They're all broadly similar. They depend slightly on, you know, A, the investment, B, what the government charges, improves processing fees, and also some of them include family members. Some of them, there's a different charge, it includes a certain number of family members, and some there's a additional, you know, the charge varies on the number of people and whether they're spouses or dependents. Well, spouse or dependents, they all only allow one spouse, of course. But yes, we have a fully transparent fee quote process. So when you're looking at that, we will produce an illustration which shows the investment required, the government fees, and the very small Henley fee that goes on top of that, just to help you through that situation. And tax fees are typically on an hourly basis, but typically scoped out in advance to enable you to go through, you know, understand which countries you want to go through. We have a standard methodology for tax, which is, let's look at where you're coming from and what assets and income you've got. Let's look at how that may or may not be affected by if you move, and then let's look at which country is the most important to determine which one moving from would be there. So please, that person who wants that, you know, send me some more details to my email address. That's the one on the screen, and we can definitely pick that one up with you tomorrow or next week. Let's have a little look. Can you explain more about investment income rate? If I own US stocks and bonds, do I pay investment income taxes in Portugal? Only if you become tax resident in Portugal. If you're not there more than 183 days in the year, then you don't. But yes, Portugal's tax efficient non-habitual resident scheme was abolished at the end of 2023. Not all applications have yet been fully processed. So, of course, there are people still getting it granted when they made the application back in time. But no, the application had to be made before the end of 2023. So, but yes, if you become resident and you've got assets outside Portugal, you do still pay investment income taxes in Portugal, which might depend. Yeah, but again, if you are a US citizen or tax resident, you would be paying that in the US as well. So we did an exercise for someone recently where we worked out the differences in the rates weren't that huge. So the incremental cost of being in Portugal was relatively small compared to what he would pay. Yeah, so yeah, he could. So yeah, it's individual case by case, but yes, that's you would be paying there, but only if you're tax resident. Do we have a local presence? Someone's asked. Well, yes, if you go back to the beginning, we had the slides showing that we have more than 70 offices around the world. You can find all those on our website. You can meet people in person. We've got hundreds of people around the world. Yes, so we're definitely not a phishing scam. I can attest to that. You have my word on that. So yes, come, you know, send us an email to the office that whatever office is most convenient for you. Come and see us. We have client advisors based there. We'll be able to help you, take you through all these options. To a greater or lesser extent, all of our offices have people that can talk at a high level about the programs. We split our teams into client advisors who can talk about the breadth of programs, and then relationship managers that will actually handle the application process in that country. So we've got both breadth and depth depending on how you need it. But yes, if you want to come and see us and talk to us personally, then say there are 70 offices. henleyglobal.com has them all listed, and just send an email to that office, arrange an appointment, and we look forward to seeing you. So
Peter,
on that, yes.
If you allow me, I'd just like to jump in, given that the US came in, even though it's not the main subject of the webinar today, but the US, they do have a program as well, which is the EB5 residence program that leads to the green card. So it's a program that you invest 800,000 USD in a project and you get the green card with it. So this is definitely a program that we assist with. So if you are interested in that, you can definitely reach out to us, and we'll be happy to assist you too.
Great. And yeah, thanks for that. Yes. So these are our contact details for those questions. Other people interested in other countries, I will put up the contact details for my dear friends in the other countries. So for Portugal or Italy or Latvia, these are also our contact details there. Margarita is, although based in Latvia, is also responsible for Italy processing. So that's why she's there. So do not get confused by that. So yeah, so all that remains, let me just double check there's no more questions have come in, is to thank my colleagues here for taking their time today. Not only have they just been here now for the last hour, we had a previous run of this at lunchtime as well. So it's a big commitment for the day, both in doing the presenting twice, but also putting all the slides together. So my sincere thanks to everybody for doing that. My thanks to all of you for joining us, and we will be back later in the year with various other webinars, whether on the tax side, there are ones about specific countries if you want to dig into more detail. And yeah, so if you want to hear more, you know where to find us. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you again sometime soon. Thank you and good night.